This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remus.
What's going on, everyone? Happy Monday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We got a game day edition tonight because the Jets are back at home after their franchise record 9th straight win on Saturday night, looking to make it an even 10 as heavy favorites against the San Jose Sharks this evening. It is the Amazon Prime game, which means a 6:30 start down at Canada Life Center. We'll be all over it. Mike McIntyre is going to join us, and we're also going to have Adnan Virk jump on. Cannot wait to have Adnan, one of the great professionals that our country has produced when it comes to sports broadcasting. Of course, MLB Network, but now also part of the Amazon Prime team. Adnan is in Winnipeg and will join us to get his thoughts on the Four Nations tournament last week, the Jets season so far. And we'll have to ask him about the Blue Jays as well, because there's a lot of angst around the Blue Jays nation heading into spring training and, of course, the upcoming season. But our focus is going to be on the Winnipeg Jets. We're also going to hear from Connor Hellebuyck and Josh Morrissey, who both spoke coming off of their time at the Four Nations tournament. We'll look forward to speaking about that and then get ready for tonight's game. We've also got an extension to talk about that kind of got snuck in there on the weekend. So lots of Jets content today. Big win, fun win on Saturday night in St. Louis without Morrissey and without Hellebuyck. Some late heroics by Gabriel Velarde and Kyle Connor turning out the lights in the shootout. And the Jets make it 9 in a row heading into tonight's game. So we are locked and loaded. As I mentioned, Mike McIntyre will come on. He was at the morning skate today. And, of course, was there when Josh Morrissey and Connor Hellebuyck were speaking. So we have a lot to get to coming out of the weekend and wrapping what was an all-time week last week on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Still pinching myself that I was there in Boston a whole week, but particularly for that game on Thursday night. Friday's show will go down as one that I will remember forever. It was, it'll be nice that that's there for perpetuity, to be able to go back and just remember how fun and how excited I was after that game. But again, huge thanks to Jake, Pat, and the Coolbet team for everything in last week's ability to broadcast and be a part of the Four Nations. But it's back to the grind for the Winnipeg Jets and for Winnipeg Sports Talk. 25 games left in the season. Tonight, the San Jose Sharks in Winnipeg. We'll get Remus in here in just a minute. Do want to thank all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our friends at Coolbet, Princess Auto, Wallace & Wallace, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Little Brown Jug, Fans First, F Apparel, the Winnipeg Jets, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, of course, our friends at Canadian Club, and and a big thanks to and congratulations to Mark, WST listener Mark, who is going to be coming up to Aikens with yours truly after winning the auction. Very generous bid on that one, and it was great to know. We still do have some time to help the Fund a Need campaign. We'll tell you about that a little later on for the HSC Foundation. But let's get going. Welcome to everybody in chat. Hope you had a great weekend. And welcome to you, Michael Remus. How was your weekend outside of the obvious happiness of the big win on Saturday night?
Yeah, what a win it was, Huss, and a solid weekend. It was nice to have some good weather. Got on the ODR on Saturday, but it's funny, it's freezing for 2 weeks. Can't even go outside. You got one nice day, and now it's too warm. It's above zero. What's going on here? Can we get a string of, some?
I'm not complaining with pluses. Are you kidding me?
Well, that's true. I'm not going to complain, but it's just for the ODR. I'd say it seems like every time you have an ODR good weather, the next day it's in the plus. But hey, I think we're out of it now. It's feeling like playoff weather when I was driving around. That's what it was.
I
really
gotta tell
feeling
you,
like.
I'm here just with a nice little view of the river trail ending at the Hugo Dock, and it was bananas on there this weekend. There were so many people taking advantage of the nice weather. I think a lot of people had been planning on getting out to skate the river, but because of how cold it had been putting it off. Not this weekend. This has been going on. I've seen it for a few years. I'm not sure it's ever been busier than it was kind of Saturday into Sunday, which is great to see people take advantage of it. Anyways, let's get to the Jets here, Raymond. Listen, before we dive into the game, Four Nations fallout and feedback from Connor Hellebuyck and Josh Morrissey. A little bit of business by Kevin Cheveldayoff on the weekend. Vlad Nemetsnikov getting a 2-year extension with the Winnipeg Jets. And I'll be honest, of all the people that I thought would be potentially extending over this period, Vlad was not near the top of my list. But man, when you look at what this guy has done for the Winnipeg Jets since coming here and signing the contract last season, this is a first-place hockey club. He has been the second-line center for the majority of the season. I mean, I know they still look to potentially improve that product, but this is a guy I think that absolutely has proven his worth to Winnipeg. It's a 2-year deal, gets a nice bump on it to $3 million a year now that the AAV is going up. Likes it in Winnipeg, likes being part of the team. Nice little bit of business by the Winnipeg Jets with a 2-year extension for Vlad, and very well deserved for the player.
Yeah, we had talked about heading into the break, wondering, hey, are there going to be some extensions? I saw Vancouver, announced one when they came back on Friday. But Nemetsnikov, he's currently making $2 million a year, so he gets a bump up to $3 million for the next 2 years. And it's amazing how we talk about the Athletic article. No one Winnipeg's on every player's no trade clause, blah blah blah. Well, 2 players who Cheveldayoff acquired at the same time, in Niederreiter and Nemetsnikov, both end up signing here. This is Nemetsnikov's, I think, second contract now with the Jets. And yeah, I think we should see, with this new extension, we should see some more number 7 jerseys in the crowd.
Seven's
there.
Seven's a great
CLC.
Number too. Great number.
7's a great number. Man, he's gonna be here for a while. Nice to see. And look, a versatile player. He can play wing. He can play center. Play up and down the lineup. $3 million, pretty manageable number, especially with the cap going up. Has been second. Again, he's played on just about every line. So yeah, I think the guy who wants to be here. Sign him, get it done. And I was kind of surprised, to see that come through on Saturday. But hey, it was definitely great news.
Yeah, it was the first thing that I saw on my feed when I got off the Boston to Montreal flight. I'm like, whoa! This was not on my bingo card today. But congratulations to Vlad. Actually, why don't we just play this? We got 16 here.
Sure.
Vlad did speak to re-upping with the Winnipeg Jets. Here's what the Jet forward had to say after inking a 2-year extension at 3 sheets per.
As I said, I loved every second of it once I got here. The guys are great, the coaches, everyone treats you well, and overall I just loved it, so I wanted to stay, and I'm glad we got something done.
Is there something about your philosophy maybe as a player and the philosophy of this organization that really meshes well that you could kind of explain?
I think it's the winning. I think it's such a good team here, and you want to be a part of a winning culture, and I think that's what we're building here. So I think everyone's on the same page, and we're building something special here, and we just gotta keep going.
That winning that you're talking about, even that last game where you kind of pull, it looks like you're once again going to get to that 8th game plateau and not get past that. How do you explain how often this team this season has been able to show up at the most crucial time to get those wins?
Yeah, it's there's that never quit mentality kind of thing, and as the group stays together, the more you learn how to win those kind of games. And we've been down a lot this year and never felt out. So we kind of build and don't give up on games, and we just keep going.
There he is, Vladdy the Baddie, back for 2 more years with the Winnipeg Jets after signing the contract on the weekend. Here's a quick clip from head coach Scott Arneal on Vlad as a member of the Jets and his contributions to the club.
I'm a Vladdy fan. Obviously, I had him in New York and some history with him. I just think he's a real competitive guy that has found a way to, in this league, to stay in this league and to be effective. He's played a bottom six role. He's played a top six role. He's been on winning teams. He just, to me, we can use him. Obviously, he got, put into a role of being second line center, and has handled it very, very well. He's also kills penalties for us. He's on our second power play unit. He's a brave guy. He's a guy that will block shots in any situations. He's also a little bit of a pest out there. He likes to get under the skin of the opposition. So he's, and then the last part, he wants to be here. He wants to be a Winnipeg Jet, and that's that for us. That's you'd love to hear that, and yeah, I'm a big fan of what I get from him every night.
All right, so there is Coach Scott Arniel on the Vlad Nemetsnikov extension. We're going to spend some time hearing from Hellebuyck and Morrissey coming out of Four Nations, but let's get to the game on Saturday night, Reem. By the way, shout out to Connor, Liz, and Jacob. Great stuff on Sunday Morning Live. If you missed that, make sure to go back and check it out for some additional content on your favorite hockey team with three of the most talented young people in the media community. This was a fun one, Reem. And listen, I went in there not knowing exactly what to expect. I mean, I think the Jets have earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes. They're going to always come with the professional effort. Wasn't sure how things would look with no Connor Hellebuyck and no Josh Morrissey. But you had a number of guys that sort of stepped up, none bigger than Gabriel Vilardi, with a couple, of course, the big goal late in the game. But I'm still trying to get an answer to this question, Reem. When was the last time a double holding minor was called in the National Hockey League? One of the more bizarre unicorn calls that we've seen in the NHL in a long time. And listen, I don't really have any arguments with it. I mean, again, if you miss the game with just under 5 minutes left, the Jets are pressing. Neil Pionk goes to blast a slap shot and his stick breaks. And obviously when that happens, as often does, you've got sort of an odd man rush the other way. Now, Pionk busted his ass to get back and to help prevent a scoring opportunity, but did it with getting his arm in there with no stick, obviously, was going to get called for holding. What was bizarre about this was that the Jets didn't get the puck right away. St. Louis had it for, another 10 or 15 seconds. The puck was put to the net, and Pionk, being the defenseman, had to tie the guy up in front of the net, took another holding call, and they called both of them. I can never remember that happening. I mean, obviously, we've seen players, get a roughing and a slashing penalty in the same, but a double holding minor, I'm not sure, frankly, that I've ever heard of that before. And of course, St. Louis scores on the power play to go up. They scored at the end of the first power play, which was worst case scenario for the Jets, which meant there was like 3 odd minutes left in the game, but they still had to kill the second power play. They get it done. They get it into the St. Louis zone. And the next thing you know, Gabe Vilardi with another absolutely perfect deflection gets this one to OT. Some pretty good chances on both sides in the overtime, and it finally went to a shootout. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the Jets' first shootout win this year.
That's their first shootout period. And man, how good was Eric Comrie in the shootout? Man, he was lights out. The closer, like they kept trying all these dekes on him, tracking well, getting in position, making the saves, and yeah, Gabriel Vilardi, what a season he's having. 53 points, 57 games. Third on the team in goals with 26, Huss. And there was some people on our Facebook. I posted the result, and one guy's like, damn, I turned the game off. Don't turn the game off. You can never count these Jets out. Really disappointing, to take that penalty late. And also, I mean, they scored, before the 2 minutes were up, so they still had another 2 minutes to go. But you were wondering, okay, who was going to step up here with no Morrissey, no Hellebuyck, Nikolai Ehlers scoring, and Gabe Vilardi with 2. And how about on defense? We were wondering, how is this defense going to look with Josh Morrissey? Dylan Sandberg was the leader in time on ice. Also, how important has he been to this team? 26-40. Logan Stanley seeing some big minutes, 23-16. Pionk, 24-23. DeMello, 22-51. And even without Morrissey, in overtime, I felt like in overtime you saw some guys that maybe you wouldn't normally see. Well, you also, because the Jets have been winning every game in overtime and they're not going the full 5 minutes. But DeMello getting out there. Lowry, man, I think Lowry broke a guy's ankles out there in overtime. It was like he was back in junior with that move on the boards. Look, they had a couple chances, but credit to the Jets for gutting out and taking in a shootout.
Yeah, listen, full marks to Eric Comrie, and just nice to see him getting some results. I mean, there's plenty of talk about the fact that the team wasn't winning for a while when Eric was going in. He had some of the toughest spots, and frankly, times where he played well enough to win, and the team just didn't score. But he was a big part of that game. I thought he was really strong throughout the entire game, but especially in OT and then in the shootout. And I mean, if it's not Kyle Connor, it's Mark Scheifele. If it's not Mark Scheifele, it's Gabriel Velarde. Of course, Nikolai Ehlers a big part of it as well with that beautiful goal. And what a pass by Cole Perfetti, who came out of the break hot like he was going into the break right now. I'm going to be talking about those guys for a little special in our Coolbet lines later on today at the end of the program. But, and I don't know, did you catch the interview with Rennie? Rennie with Gabe after the game?
A little bit. I saw it on social media.
Gabe cracks me up, but Rennie was asking him, what is it about this team? You're able to come and find a way to win. That's 9 in a row, franchise record. What did you think about that? And he very matter-of-factly said, oh, well, to be honest, that's the first I've ever heard of it from you. So I can tell you that it definitely wasn't a motivating factor. And then the quote that I just love from Gabe, we just go out wanting to win every game. And they've done a pretty damn good job of that so far. Far and away the number one team in the West right now. And battling the incredible Washington Capitals for first spot in the league. The Caps got back to work. They had nobody play in the Four Nations, so maybe we shouldn't be surprised that they absolutely hammered the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Edmonton Oilers on the weekend, scoring 15 goals. And, of course, Alex Ovechkin getting the hat trick yesterday. I didn't think it was at all possible that he could break the record this year after missing that time with a broken leg. That is back on the table. That is very much back on the table. You mentioned Samberg for a minute, and I see Stevie saying in chat, Samberg is another best-kept secret in Winnipeg. Every trade expert has us trading for a second-pair D-man to play with Pionk. I don't think so. Listen, Samberg is absolutely going to be, I think, in the top 4. I can't possibly see that changing. I mean, all of a sudden you get some all-star defender in, maybe that changes things around, but I mean, his body of work speaks for itself, how important he has been to this team. And I did hear there's a lot of stupid things on the internet, Remus. It's escaping me who was saying this. Probably because it was so dumb, I just wanted to remove it from my frontal lobe and not remember it. But I am remembering it right now, claiming that Dylan Samberg, this is someone from out of the market for what it's worth, that Dylan Samberg is on the trade block and the Jets are looking to move him. And I immediately just said, thank you very much, close window and move on, because that could not be farther from the truth. But I mean, listen, we talked about the way that the team went into the break, winning those 8 in a row without Adam Lowry. It was great to see the captain back out there on Saturday night, Remus. They find a way to win, and now have a chance to. It's always great, if they can get this win tonight for the next couple days, we'll be going into the standings, and you look at that past 10 and see 10-0-0. As I said, it's never been done in franchise history, and only the San Jose Sharks are standing in the way of the Winnipeg Jets to do exactly that.
Yeah, that's an opponent. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm looking at the standings, and you got to scroll all the way to the very bottom for San Jose. 15 wins. I mean, the Jets almost have that in their last 9 games. They got more than half of that. It's not going well. I mean, but I think there's some young talent there, and Celebrini and Will Smith that makes them an exciting team to watch. Their power play, they just traded away Granlund. He was pretty good for them. So it's tough, tough in San Jose. I think brighter days are ahead. But yeah, 10-game win streak, that would be pretty cool. Maybe we'll take a screenshot of 10 10-0 in the last 10. And one thing we kind of haven't really talked about, this was the talk, the home game leading into the break, was Mark Scheifele still needs one goal to become the franchise leader in goals passing. Jets, Thrashers, great Ilya Kovalchuk. So if he does get one tonight, and it's been a couple, I would think that he's due, especially at home against San Jose. I wonder if they'll have some type of acknowledgement for that. And I would imagine there'll be some kind of applause at one of the breaks for, Morrissey, Kyle Connor, and Connor Hellebuyck for representing their countries at the Four Nations.
I'm glad you brought that up. Scheifele is plus 105 to score tonight. I will be locking that in. He's going to get that at home in front of the home fans. Is a perfect night and a perfect team to do that against. And I guess tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be talking about that new record before the team heads out to Nashville. Listen, we're going to get to Connor Hellebuyck and Josh Morrissey talking Four Nations before Mike McIntyre joins us. Two things just before we get to that. Again, a huge thanks and congratulations to Mark, who's a WST listener, who was able to win the auction for the Aikens Lake trip. Andrea from the HSC Foundation just let me know that he is a WST listener, which makes my day. Cannot wait to meet you and see you out there at Aikens, Mark. And the event overall was a huge success Sunday night. But congratulations and thanks to everyone that made bids on all of the experiences and whatnot there. And the auction is closed, but Mark and I are going to be heading out. Mark with one of his guests, and apparently I think he is a returnee visitor to Aikens Lake and those pits, so it should be a lot of fun. I still do have the pin, the link in the tweet. You'll see it in the description here. While the auction is closed, you can still make a donation to the HSC Foundation's Fund a Need campaign, looking to raise funds for some very important equipment improvements in the emergency department. And with any $25 donation or more, you'll be able to get a tax receipt and know that you're doing your part to help probably the most important hospital and emergency room in the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba. So link in the description here. And if you go to my X feed at Hustlerama, the link is there as well. You can go there and donate. One other thing we should mention, Remo, Thursday is Jets Predators, and it, of course, is our whiskey event at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. We did it last year. It was an unbelievable success, and we're doing it again on Thursday, this time learning and enjoying everything bourbon with Micah Dew, the Maker's Mark Masterclass. There's, I think, only like 5 tickets left for this. So link in the description. Remus, you can throw that into the chat right now. So it says 6. I think we needed to grab another one of those. So and my buddy Dom just texted me this morning. He's coming in. I know a lot of the people that were there last year are going to do it again. So if you want to join us for Jets Predators, a great night of whiskey tasting and learning about bourbons, it's this Thursday. There are less than 6 tickets remaining. So let's get those done. And we will see you there with our friends from Beam Suntory and, of course, the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, all part of the upcoming Winnipeg Whiskey Festival. All right, we will dive into tonight's game a little bit more, look ahead to the deadline and the top stories in and around the Winnipeg Jets. But we wanted to hear from Josh Morrissey and Connor Hellebuyck coming off their Four Nations experience. We'll hear from Kyle Connor, I think, at another point. But Morrissey, of course, unfortunately not able to play in the final game. Must have just been pretty much on his deathbed to miss that game. But feeling a bit better. He did meet the media, and here's Josh just talking about his Four Nations experience overall.
I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. Better probably than could even have expected in terms of, obviously fan engagement, the hockey, the caliber play, all around experience. And of course, being on the team that came out on top. I mean, it was awesome. I was happy with how I played, and, you go to those tournaments, you just want to embrace whatever role is available to you. And, you're on a team of all-stars. So I was excited that the coaches believed in me, and felt like they gave me a lot of opportunity to play, and felt I handled that well. I was just beyond disappointed. It doesn't even put into words. The feeling of things happening the way it did before the final, and just bad timing, I suppose. But it was crushing not to be out there in the fight with the guys, and obviously not being able to celebrate with the guys after. But man, they played amazing in that final game, and I'm so proud of them, and so proud to be part of that team. So even though I wasn't out there, felt a part of it. And you know what, the guys and the coaching staff and management, I mean, the way they I guess consoled me or however after, and the kind words and stuff like that just meant a lot. So they made me really feel like, even though I wasn't out there in that final game, I was a big part of things and part of that journey. So a lot of great memories probably haven't even sunk in yet. Biggest takeaway probably is just want to do it again. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush that I've never experienced in my career. I think the getting to the conference finals my second year is probably the closest I could say, but that was on another level. So it just makes you that much hungrier to be able to experience that again.
All right, so there's Josh on the experience overall. I still feel terrible for him missing that final game, and as he mentioned, he had to miss the everything, the celebration afterwards. I had a few people come up to me in the bar after the game with the team just above us celebrating, asking about Morrissey because I was wearing the Canada Morrissey jersey, and it was very clear that a lot of people from around the country that don't see the Winnipeg Jets very much left that tournament going, wow, you guys have an absolute stud on your blue line. And it was really sad that he wasn't able to play in that game for obvious reasons. Here's what Morrissey had to say just about what led up to him not being able to be in the lineup for the final.
In the morning, I felt fine at the morning skating. Maybe not perfect, but felt fine, and just hoped to get back in the afternoon. Had my pregame meal, and sort of middle of the nap, things started to go sideways, and I won't go into any more detail than that. But right. Tried to get things to subside. I mean, the team doc and stuff.
Did you hear this clip?
Possible no. To to me, that was the biggest game of my life, and I didn't want to miss that game. It was, like I said, it was crushing. But at the same time, when we were at the rink sitting there and, things weren't improving, it would have been selfish of me to go out there and hurt the team with that, we can't dress 7, all those things. So
a lot of people in the comments.
It was a tough decision that had to be made, and obviously when it happened, I was disappointed, but it was what it was. And, I did watch the game back at the hotel, and obviously it was an exciting one.
Yeah, there's Josh Morrissey, and listen, I don't think he was taking any shots at anybody on other teams, but pretty stark contrast from the selflessness of Morrissey as to what happened with Team USA, with a guy that wasn't able to play in the lineup and a guy that they should have had in the lineup in Kyle Connor in the press box when they could have desperately needed his game-breaking ability in a 2-2 game that went into overtime. But I mean, there's lots of things we wanted to hear from Josh. Obviously, he wasn't able to be there where he wanted to be on the bench, but obviously he was able to pay attention to the game. Here was Josh on his reaction to the McDavid OT winner.
Didn't have a lot of energy at that point in time, but I jumped off the bed for sure, and just thrilled. I mean, it was such a great group of guys, and both such a tight tournament. I mean, the U.S. team obviously was fantastic, and what hockey games both those games were. Ecstatic that we were able to get it done. And then obviously you feel for your teammates and friends on the other side as well. I mean, it's just the weird part of those events when you're playing against teammates and stuff like that. You feel for them, but obviously you're really, I was really excited that they were able to get that game won for Canada.
All right, Josh Morrissey on the McDavid winner. Josh was, of course, in the lineup for the opening game. And what a scene that was to kick off the tournament in Montreal. I mean, I remember doing the show the next day, and obviously was not at those games. I was here in Montreal watching like most Canadians were on television. And just was taken aback at the scene in Montreal, the ceremony at the beginning with Mario Lemieux, and then obviously the game that followed. Here's Josh just on getting into the tournament and the feelings in and around that opener against Sweden in Montreal.
Man, that was incredible. I could probably just sit here and talk about so many moments like that throughout the tournament, but, that one, Bell Center playing Sweden, obviously everyone's amped up, ready to go, and, Mario came in our room before actually and just gave us some, did the starting lineup and whatnot, and, that was a pretty big thrill, but then when he was out there and embraced, man, it was crazy. Just, I think that first period, everyone was absolutely on our side running on adrenaline, and we were joking about it after the game. I think the second period we were almost we had expelled so much energy in the first and adrenaline that we didn't have the greatest second period, but it was a cool moment for sure.
Man, this is just great stuff from Josh Morrissey. That, of course, was the opener. The game that I think everyone will remember outside of the final, though, was Saturday night, Bell Center, Canada, USA. Here's what Josh took away from that one.
Listen, when you put on your country's colors and flag, it just means something more. It's not about you. It's about the team, and it's about something even bigger than the team. It's about your country. So, obviously, we felt that pride, and we felt that need to, go out there and represent our country in the best way we possibly could. And obviously, the competitor, I think, in every guy, I mean, we haven't had best on best in a long time. So, there were so many elements that just made this tournament kind of the perfect build-up for international hockey again. And, as you said, Canada, U.S., 8 o'clock Saturday night at the Bell Center, first time in almost 10 years that the teams had played. And, obviously with all the different things going on politically and all that stuff, I mean, it was a charged up environment. And, I started that game, I wasn't aware there was going to be fights. So all of a sudden the puck drops and away they went. It was, probably the greatest start to a hockey game I've ever seen. And to have a front row seat was pretty cool. Commend all those guys on that courage. And, it was a special moment.
All right. I mean, Josh is always incredibly well-spoken, but this is some amazing stuff from the Jet defenseman on the experience at the Four Nations. Here's Josh on just the gained confidence through this year and this experience.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think for sure, and I don't look at the end like a heartbreak. I mean, I do think it was crushing in the moment and disappointing not to be out there, but in that moment and beyond that moment, it's not about me. Obviously, it's about the team getting the win. So that was all that mattered to me, and I look at it, like in a positive way. Obviously would have loved to be out there, but I look at it from the team perspective. And I think for me personally, coming out of this event, like you said, I mean, it was the fastest hockey I've ever played. And, that was kind of the general sentiment around our dressing room, even talking with guys like Sid and stuff that have been in 2010, 14 Olympics. I mean, he's played in everything, Stanley Cup finals, everything else. And, every guy was saying, I mean, hey, it's the fastest, most skilled and intense hockey they've played. So, like you said, I've always thinking about how I can improve as a player, and definitely being around those guys, being in that environment, playing on that stage, in those pressure moments, I think I tried to soak it all in, learn a ton, and bring those things back with me to help me become a better player and be a better player here with the Jets, and hopefully be able to play in big moments like that with our team, hopefully as soon as this year, in a few months, and also in the future if I get that opportunity to represent, Canada again on that stage. So ton of things, still unpacking all of the probably things, but throughout the tournament I tried to just kind of make notes and stuff on things that I was thinking about and learning or seeing or what other guys maybe were doing. So just an amazing environment with the elite of the elite in hockey to soak that in and learn and also compete with. And to your point, it's a long-winded answer, but I think proving to yourself that you belong on that stage and belong with, those players and can play with and against those guys in those moments, definitely something I take a lot of confidence in coming back.
All right, this is great stuff from Morrissey. There's one more here, and just moving forward, Morrissey was asked about the potential benefits to the Jets coming out of the Four Nations, with many Jets being participants in the tourney.
I think if you look at our Team Canada, for example, I mean, there was 3 guys on that team that played in the 2016 World Cup, and only 2 from the Olympic team in 14. So for a lot of us on our team, same with the U.S. team, Sweden, Finland, I mean, it's the first time a lot of this generation of players have had that experience. So, I think every player around, the different countries and different NHL teams will take things from that and, come back to the NHL. But I think for our group, I mean, obviously when the dust settles and everything, now that we get back into a rhythm, I think, each guy will take things, and, those conversations will probably be had between leadership group, and, it's not reinventing the wheel. What we're doing here is unbelievable, and it's just, I think it's more experienced things that maybe help you to be a better leader in moments that arise during games or things like that. So I definitely, talking to Casey and Helly, I mean, they felt they learned a lot as well, and just, again, being in that environment and around, lots of winners, lots of guys that have won cups, big games, you're just naturally going to pick a lot up. So hopefully it helps our team going forward, and, we can utilize some of that.
All right, so there's Josh Morrissey, who, of course, was part of the Canadian winning team. The United States went right down to the wire with Jets goaltender Connor Hellebuyck battling every second of the way in the final. Hellebuyck also talked about just being a part of the event, and here's what the Jet Vezina Trophy winner had to say about his Four Nations experience.
It's a goal short, really. Did a lot of good things, had a lot of fun, met a lot of good people along the way. I would imagine a lot of them are going to be together again next year. It's kind of a heartbreak, and I'm still getting over it, but, looking forward here to the rest of our season and a big playoff push. It was really fun to play some emotional games, some heavy emotional games, and really get into it. And, I'm looking forward to what we have for the rest of the season here.
Helly also just talked about the intensity of the tournament, but especially of that final game.
I think everyone goes in looking around the room, waiting for someone to say it. And we said it right from the get-go, is we're here to win and we're here to play hard. And the second one guy's in, everyone wants that as well. So I think the locker rooms had that feel to it. The second you were sitting in there, you just felt like it was going to be a hard-fought game. And then you get out there and you start competing, and and that's fun. Those players, those high-caliber players, they enjoy that, and you could tell. You could tell right from the get-go.
The Hellebuyck was asked too of just the atmosphere, and I can, anyone that was watching the shows last week and on Friday, it was it was special. People were talking about all around North America, but in that TD Garden, on the ice, in the net, I can't imagine how intense it was. Here's how Hellebuyck looked back at the intensity of that championship game against Canada.
It was electric. I thought when we played Canada in Canada, it was just a crazy experience, and the production was kind of set for a home game for Canada, and you could say the adverse for USA in Boston. I thought they did a really good job of making us feel like it was our country, and our fans are ecstatic and really, really into that game. And, we definitely drove the game with the momentum they were giving us.
What's your biggest takeaway from the experience?
Just how fun that style of hockey is. When you put the best on the ice, it slightly changes the game, but it makes it a little bit easier as well, especially being the goalie behind a really good defensive system. And, I thought guys were exactly where you wanted them to be and expected them to be, and you did your part and they did their part, and that was a lot of fun to play a game like that.
Here's Connor on if he gained confidence from the Four Nations experience.
Oh, absolutely. And the best part about it is that the game didn't feel all too different than our system here. We've been playing very good here in Winnipeg, and it was kind of a really smooth transition into that game. And that being said, I felt like everything was where it was expected, or what I saw was what I got.
All right, and one more from Hellebuyck. It's just, he was asked about getting over. He mentioned that it was heartbreaking to lose in that fashion. Here's Helly on getting over the heartbreak of the Four Nations.
I think it's one of those things where, the whole team's not here today, so I'm getting what I need personally out of today. But once I get around the guys and the chit-chat starts flowing, it's just going to be smooth sailing from there. I don't think I'm going to think twice about it. It's still pretty raw right now because I haven't really reflected with anyone. I haven't talked to anyone. I haven't gotten back into the routine of things. I think the second I wake up tomorrow and go to a morning skate, I believe everything's just going to kind of transition back into the NHL season, and I'm just going to put it behind me like I do every single day for any goal and any other game.
There's Connor Hellebuyck. I know we talked about it on Friday, but I have a feeling that every member of the Jets that was in the tournament, Mark Scheifele as well, who didn't get the opportunity, I think is going to feel like they've got a little something to prove over this next little while. Most importantly, come Stanley Cup playoff time. And as we've been mentioning, for a guy like Scheifele, the best way to make sure that you're in the mix for that Olympic team is to give them no choice but to watch you play for a couple months in the Stanley Cup playoffs and plant your flag in for that Olympic team next year. Listen, Mike McIntyre is going to jump on with us in just a second. Got to thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Rolly's is family owned and operated for over 60 years here in Winnipeg and in Manitoba, and the most trusted name in moving services in the city. What you're going to want to do is head on over to their website at rollies.com. The top right corner, you can click on request an estimate. When you do, make sure you put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know where you're planning on moving, when that move is occurring, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in with the famous white glove service that Rollies provides to Manitobans. For your next move, make it Rollies, proud sponsor of WST. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. A huge thanks to our friends at St. Vital Dental Center for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, St. Vital Dental Center is a full-service dental location to take care of kids as young as 6 months old, all the way to seniors, with literally every offering you need, including dental implants. But I got to give a shout out to Stonewall Dave, who actually went over to St. Vital Dental on the weekend and on Friday afternoon. And he did do the 3 p.m. appointment so we could get the marble race up on the screen. Brilliant move by Stonewall Dave. But he passed on that. But guys, I walked into the clinic for the 3 p.m. appointment, and they had Winnipeg Sports Talk on the screen for me. Dentist, that'd be Terry, came in. We chatted about how we knew Huss in the game last night until the hygienist started. 5.5. I got to casually mention that I won a marble race. And then he said, frankly, every business in Winnipeg should start most customer interactions talking about the marble race. But David mentioned had just had a great experience, in and out, free parking in the back, Folks, if you've been neglecting going to the dentist or you're looking for a great spot with a friendly staff, great service, St. Vital Dental Center, they're at 167 St. Anne's, and you can find them online at stvitaldental.ca. And hey, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Hopefully we're out of the teeth of the Winnipeg winter. But as we all know, for all battery needs, you can shop local, get the lowest prices in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores, and get the best in service as well, as Manitoba Battery will deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the city of Winnipeg. You can pop by and see them in store, free battery testing as well if you're wondering how yours is doing. Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, and you can also shop online at manitobabattery.com, and they'll be more than happy to deliver them to you. All right, Jets Sharks tonight, busy weekend. Lots to talk about. Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press joins us now. Mike, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Really good. Start of a new week. Looking forward to hitting the road tomorrow. I'm on this quick trip, natural back-to-back in Ottawa and Nashville. Who planned that? Not exactly like as the crow flies. I don't ever remember seeing a back-to-back where those are the two cities teams have gone to, but two great cities. Looking forward to it. And Huss, I had a bit of a pinch me moment this morning down at Canada Life Center. So I was a Jets 1.0 fan, grew up in Winnipeg, and I was a goaltender. I played minor hockey league, minor hockey for 12, 13 years, starting when I was 5. I'm the kid that got coerced into playing goal because no one else wanted to. For Gateway Community Club, we would practice outside. Anyways, when I was like 10, my absolute favorite Jets 1.0 player, and because I was a goalie, was Pokey Reddick. I had the Pokey and the Bandit posters. I even wore number 33 because Pokey wore number 33 for the Jets. I never got to meet Pokey Reddick until today. He's in town. It's Black History Night at Canada Life Center, and Pokey is the guest of honor. And so I got to meet him, interview him, great chat with him. The hockey world is so ridiculously small. Pokey was telling me how he coached a youth team years ago, and the goalie on the other team that his youth team was playing, Eric Comrie, and one of the players on his youth team, Walker Dewar, who's looking like he's going to be a healthy scratch tonight for the San Jose Sharks. But anyways, Pokey's brother, I didn't know this, lives in
Smokey?
Winnipeg. Smokey, yeah, that'd be a great name. But
I think
anyways,
that is his name.
Is his name Smokey? Come on.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's what he is referred to as. I'm pretty sure.
Pokey and Smokey?
Yeah.
Wow. That's tremendous. Yeah, he didn't say his brother's name, but that would be hilarious and very fitting. So, yeah, it was a great chat, great catch up, a bit of a trip down memory lane. Pokey still keeps an eye on the Jets 2.0, of course, and safe to say he likes what he sees from the group these days. So, yeah, he'll be in attendance tonight, and I'll have a story coming on my chat with Pokey. But I know there's what's that saying? Never meet your idols, right? I met Pokey. He was one of my childhood idols, and he did not disappoint. No regrets whatsoever. Great guy.
No, those of us that are of our vintage remember the legendary tandem of Pokey and the Bandit. That may be the most famous. That's right there. There's the two posters of my youth that stand out the most from Jets history. There was the Pokey and the Bandit, which could be number 1. There was the King and Ty, if you recall that one, yes, when those guys came in. And then there's also one a little later on, the Young Guns. With,
I had that too. That was
Young
like
Guns.
Kachuk, Slany, Zamnov, Davidov.
Yeah.
There's like 5, right?
Evgeny Davidov was there.
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah. And everyone's, Stan Smokey Reddick. That's Pokey's brother.
There's the young guy. Yeah. I
had
had
Remus
that
just jumping on that right away. That was
whose dog is that, by the way? I don't know whose dog.
Darcy, the dog.
Okay.
He also had 20 as a rookie that year for the Winnipeg Jets.
Everybody was scoring, yeah.
So yeah, it is cool. I mean, they'll honor Pokey tonight for his place in Jet history tonight at the game, and again 6:30 start against San Jose. Before we get to tonight's game, though, let's back it up. Couple things. First off, Vlad Nemestikov extension. I got off a plane from Boston to Montreal, turned my phone on, and the first thing I see, the Jets have done some business. And I don't know, of all the contracts that I thought might be coming, I'll be honest, Vlad wasn't at the top of the list, but the more you think about how versatile and important he's been to the Winnipeg Jets, good piece of business to keep Vlad around for another couple years.
I laugh because when last week started, and I'm a Blue Jays fan, if you had told me that one of the headlines in the sports world last week would be Vladdy signs contract extension, I don't think that would have been the one that I was expecting.
It's funny you say that, Mike, because, we started the program and I was sitting here talking about Vlad getting the new contract and Vlad extending, and a few people had come in late and thought that we were talking about the Blue Jays. Sorry, Jays fans. No, it's Vlad Nemestikov.
Yeah, no, the other Vladdy is currently liking Instagram posts of mock-ups in him in like New York Yankees attire. So it doesn't sound like there's going to be an extension coming on that front. But for the hockey Vladdy, the one that we know here in Winnipeg, yeah, I mean, like if we had to handicap the UFAs and which one, who would go first if they were going to do an in-season extension, because they haven't done a lot of those. They did Nino Niederreiter last year. I think there's been a couple others over the time, but Kevin Cheveldayoff tends to do that sort of thing at the end of the season, not during it. I don't know. I probably would have had Vlad Nemestikov like up near the top. Personally, I would have had him ahead of Alex Iafallo, of Mason Appleton, if we were talking about the forwards. Nikolai Ehlers, of course, is one that a lot of people are focusing on. And then on the back end, they've got some as well. And then there's the RFAs like Samberg and Velarde. But I think it just makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Vlad Nemestikov does. First of all, he's found a nice fit on the second line. Now, I don't think Vlad Nemestikov is going to be a second line player for the Jets throughout the rest of his contract. And we know that he can be a guy that could certainly boost the bottom six in a big way. But, and I think he's now been the second line center so long, we can't even call him a placeholder anymore. And we'll see what they do at the trade deadline, of course. But it's possible that he could get bumped down again, as he has in the past. But obviously some nice chemistry with Nikolai Ehlers, Cole Perfetti. I mean, you look at the work that line's done both before the Four Nations and then certainly coming back the other night. Cole Perfetti seems like he's really coming into his own a bit. And Huss, I think I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago, but, we all made a big to-do about Cole Perfetti, saying that he's got to be more of a prick on the ice, and then kind of putting his money where his mouth is, and he's been a much different, much more effective player. And I said at the time, it kind of reminds me, like it's like he was basically saying, I need to play more like Vlad Nemestikov. And Cole Perfetti probably has a lot more skill, just pure skill, than Vlad Nemestikov. But I think Vlad Nemestikov is an example of how a young player like Cole, who's playing on a line with him and has for a long time, can really learn some valuable lessons and incorporate elements of that into his game. So, I mean, Vlad Nemestikov does a lot of really beneficial things for the Jets, including, I think, what he's done to the young players. And as Scott O'Neill reiterated this morning, he loves it in Winnipeg. And, we've kind of beaten that subject to death about guys that maybe don't love it here. When you get a guy that loves the city, loves the community, loves the team and the room and the fit, and wants to stay here, you're jumping at the chance to sign that guy. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a very reasonable contract. Obviously, a bit of a pay bump for him, $1 million more a year, but the cap's going up. And I think, that contract will age very well, as will the player.
Just on Saturday night's game, Vlad, of course, was in there, and we saw that video of him kind of walking into the thing. Anything going on today? And just sort of a little laugh. Listen, Ellie wasn't there. Josh Morrissey wasn't there. But the rest of the team sure stepped up. I mean, a great game for Eric Comrie. Another big confidence booster, I think, for him and the team. But I was saying, I'm still waiting for my response from Elias Sports as to when the last time a double holding minor was called in the National Hockey League. An absolutely bizarre circumstance. And to have them score at the end of the first power play, get the second,
right,
leaving less than a minute for the Jets to find a way to tie it up, and then getting it done off a brilliant tip by Gabe Vilardi. And then with the Jets, to me, if you get one, you're probably going to get two. Which is the way that this team plays, and they found a way to do it. Just thoughts on the Jets getting that franchise record 9th straight in the fashion that they did without two of their best players.
Yeah, there was some posts on social media that very quickly did not age well. I actually saw a couple
no, are you serious, Mike? Jeez,
no,
that never
I
happens.
There was a couple that said, well, that's a terrible loss. They already had once they got that power play goal and the Jets fell behind, people were writing the Jets off. And I admit it looked bleak, of course, because as you said, they still had to kill another 2 minutes. And then that wasn't going to leave much time. It looked like, okay, here they go again. They get to 8 games and they're not going to be able to get over that hump and make it a 9-game franchise record. But yeah, Gabe Vilardi's great hands, a nice shot by Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor, fresh off the Four Nations final snub, it doesn't necessarily show at the end of the night. The only thing on his stat sheet is 1 assist. But I thought Kyle Connor looked like a very motivated player. What do you have? 10 shots on goal. I think he had 11 or 12 shot attempts. It was his shot that led to that dramatic tying goal. And then, of course, the pretty filthy set of hands in the shootout to score the winner. So, I'm sure that felt good for Kyle Connor, who probably wasn't feeling so good given everything that had happened in the last 48 hours, kind of insult to injury. Not only does the American team come up short, but you're not even part of it in the finals. So, yeah, I thought he stepped up. And I thought a lot of guys like Dylan Sandberg had a great, what did he play, 27 minutes or something, a career high? Dylan Sandberg just continues to knock it out of the park with the opportunities he's being given. And yeah, Eric Comrie, good for him. He's now kind of shaken off that bit of a personal slump in terms of wins that really wasn't reflective of his play. Now his team's scoring a little bit for him. And yeah, that brings us to tonight and a chance to bring it into double digits. And I can't imagine a better setup for the Jets. Not only are you facing the worst team in the league, they're also probably going to be tired because they played last night. And you're welcoming back your two of your best players, your best player for sure in Connor Hellebuyck, and Josh Morrissey, who's right up there as well. So certainly two of your, if not your two best players are back in the lineup, which should provide a little bit of an emotional bump as well. If you're the Sharks, you're trying to survive at least the first period tonight, where the Jets will probably be coming in waves, I would imagine.
Yeah, the scenario for the Jets, and by the way, it was a franchise record. I know many of us don't particularly care for the Atlanta Jets as opposed to Winnipeg NHL records. Bottom line is the old Jets never won 10 in a row either. No. So they've tied the record. They can be the only team to ever give Jet fans an opportunity to fire up the standings and look at their past 10 and see 10-0-0. That will be the case if they get that tonight. Mike, you mentioned Kyle Connor. We just heard, and I'm sure you heard as well, Hellebuyck and Josh Morrissey speaking, disappointed for different reasons coming out of the final. And of course, then there's Mark Scheifele. I'm really buying into this Jets revenge tour narrative, if you will, over the next little while. But what do you think the takeaways, and how can this be Take a team that was already incredibly motivated based on playoff failures of the last couple seasons, to maybe help them even more do what this team hasn't been able to do over the last couple seasons, and that's make a real impact come Stanley Cup playoff time.
I honestly can't envision how this could have played out any better, selfishly looking at it from a Jets perspective. So you have your two-time, soon-to-be three-time Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuyck, who got to the big game and came up one painful goal short, because the best the best skater on the planet beat the best goalie on the planet in overtime. So Connor Hellebuyck, we got to see him perform at an elite level on a big stage, but he comes one goal short of winning it all. You know that he wants another chance to get back to that kind of stage and come out on the winning side. So got to be an extra hunger in Connor Hellebuyck. Kyle Connor, one of the elite goal scorers in the game, snubbed, left out of that game, a game that sure looks like his team could have used him. Again, extra fire in the belly. He didn't get to play in that huge game, although he played in the big games leading up to it. No doubt extra motivation to try and get back to that kind of platform and this time be a part of it. And Josh Morrissey, who was such a big part of the Canadian team getting to where it got to, and then illness knocks him out of the lineup. So again, he gets a taste of that. Yes, they win, but he's not a part of it. He can't even take part in the celebration. The hunger, the desire, it's got to be strong. And then Mark Scheifele, expanding it, as you say, also getting snubbed. And we've seen what Mark Scheifele's done since the rosters were announced. He's just gone on to become the best Canadian goal scorer in the NHL. And so, those four players, the three guys that were there and Mark Scheifele, and those guys drive the bus when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. We can debate all we want about Logan Stanley or third defense pairing or bottom six or whatever. Those four guys are going to have a huge say in how far the Jets go this spring. And I got to think, not that they weren't motivated and hungry to begin with, based on everything that's already happened in their careers, like the last two playoff years for the Jets, but you've now given all four of them an extra bit of fuel, if you will, on what was already a pretty hot fire that was burning within. And that's certainly a great, I can't help but think that that's nothing but a huge positive for the Jets.
Yeah, I'm certainly on that train. And listen, I don't think this team really needs to do anything different than they've done all season long. No. I mean, they've been committed, they've been consistent, they've owned their faults, they've worked hard to improve them. And the areas that they've improved, in particular the power play, has been so significant that you can't help but feel like this is a team that has the chance to do something far beyond what they've fallen short of in the past few seasons. That being said, Mike, you got 25 games left. A home game tonight against the San Jose Sharks to potentially run this winning streak to 10-0. Like, you can see the finish line right now of this NHL season. And obviously the next couple weeks are going to be a little weird for players, depending on what happens with the trade deadline. But as far as the focus of the Winnipeg Jets, stack up these wins, stay on top. And I would argue that if they can win this Western Conference and be the number one seed, which they would be a heavy favorite to do right now based on where they are in the standings, man, does that set up well for both the first round and to give, listen, there's no easy outs. Even that 1-8 is going to be difficult, but I think we see kind of 7 clear playoff teams in the West.
Yes, we do.
And then you've got these teams that are battling for 8. You'd love to be playing in that 1-8. And then let a team like Dallas beat the hell out of each other with Colorado or Minnesota in the first round and, see if you can get back to that conference final and then take it from there.
Well, it sure looks, and you're right, the way it's setting up right now, it looks like the other 3 Central teams, Dallas, Minnesota, Colorado, are going to slot in. Obviously, 2 of them would be 2 and 3 within the division and play each other. And the one that doesn't get in the top 3 is likely going to be the first wild card team. And, right now, Colorado's kind of gone into a bit of a skid. I think Dallas is the team to me that I'm pretty comfortable saying Dallas is going to end up in the top 3, no question. Almost feels like it's down to Colorado or Minnesota. I still kind of favor the Avalanche, even though they haven't looked so hot as of late. But whoever it is, that's that first wild card team, let them go over and play the Pacific Division winner.
Well, and that's why, Mike, just for a minute, like looking at the standings, like I know we always sort of give Colorado the benefit of the doubt, but Minnesota, to their credit, they just find ways to win.
They do.
They did it again on the weekend. They were down by 2. They score 3. They win in OT. But like the Wild have a 4-point lead on Colorado, and they have 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
Like the bottom line is the math in the NHL with the loser point and all that. I mean, I know it's only 4 points, but when you add in those games in hand, that is actually going to be a real challenge for Colorado. And I tell you what, if Colorado ends up in the 4th spot, that's another reason why you want to be the team that wins the West and is the first seed, because having Colorado be your opponent in the wild card spot, I would say a lot more intimidating than either Vancouver or Calgary, who are most likely the teams that'll be on that spot. And then on the other side of things, as you mentioned, hey, congratulations, Vegas or Edmonton. You've won the Pacific Division. You're the 2nd seed. Here's Nate McKinnon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and who knows what the Avalanche do, between now and the trade deadline. You got to think that they're going to try and be active. So, yeah, I mean, and it's a bit of a turtle derby right now for the 2nd wild card spot, Vancouver, Calgary. And I think there's enough clustering there. Like, you could even throw teams like Utah. Heck, throw the Anaheim Ducks in there, as hard as it is to believe. They've been kind of surging lately, and whoever that is, the Jets will be the heavy favorite. Now, there's always the risk when you're playing the team that gets the 2nd wildcard spot that they had to go on a red hot streak sometimes to get into that spot, and they maybe parlay that into the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, the Jets, I think locking down the division and locking down the conference has to be a huge priority here. First of all, they've never done it, and that would be another kind of feather in the cap for this franchise to be able to win a division. Dallas, it seems like they keep winning, so Dallas isn't going to go away quietly. And what do they have, Huss? You might know this. Just one head-to-head game with the Stars left between the Jets and the Stars. I think they just have one.
To be honest, I thought that they might be done.
Are they done with
playing
Dallas?
them the rest of the year? I'm pulling it up right now. Oh, no, Friday, March 14th here in Winnipeg. That's right.
Okay, so one more head-to-head, which, again, they're 7 points up, equal games, and 25 games left. So, yeah, that's a lot of ground that Dallas would have to make up. With one head-to-head, okay, so they win that, it's 5. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets are, not only are they in the driver's seat, they've got a lot of road to work with here. And, for them, it's just about keeping the foot on the gas, not stumbling. And I think what we saw the other night in St. Louis, a bit of a shorthanded squad, and they still come through. Wasn't always pretty, but they got the results. And certainly tonight, I mean, there's always the danger of the so-called trap game, right? When you're playing an inferior opponent. I think everything we've seen of the Jets, certainly this year, would tell us that they're not a team that typically falls into those kind of traps.
Hey, Mike, before we go, I know I spoke with you last week when I was in Boston in between the games and in between the final. And we've talked about this from a Jet perspective, but just as a hockey guy, as a Canadian, how awesome was that?
It was everything that we got Piper sighting here, by the way. Piper loved it as well. She wants the world to know she was a big fan. Yeah, it blew away my expectations. I was pretty excited for it to begin with. That being said, I never imagined it would be as good as it was, and kind of made us all realize what we've been missing. It also reaffirms something that kind of always knew about hockey players, but like these guys, they're warriors, and when you slap the national emblem on the front of their jersey, like they go to war for their team. And the way they kind of, I mean, obviously the the fights in the first game against Canada and the U.S. We saw intensity, but not to that extent in the final. But it just shows, that all for one for all mentality that exists in hockey and makes it just such a fantastic sport. And, to see the best on best as we did and to obviously have Canada come out on top in the end and all the noise around that game. Like, it really felt, Huss, like this became about so much more than just a hockey game. It really did. And yeah, I mean, I know this, it certainly whet my appetite in a major way for the Olympics. And, probably it'll be a different style of hockey. Like, I don't imagine we'll see fighting at the Olympics. IIHF obviously controls that, and there's different rules. But I'm just so glad that we won't have to wait another decade for this kind of thing. We're basically going to get it every other year from now on forward. And we all win as hockey fans for sure.
Yeah, it was, a huge dub for the league, for the PA, and I mean, just for fans in general. I'm dubious on the Canadian number of viewers.
Yeah, I thought it would be bigger, but it like clearly that, like, my son and his friends, they went to a jam-packed bar. Like, I'm talking the
every
place
bar.
Yeah. And none of those people, like, how do they count those people? Was that one viewer? Because there's 10 TVs. So is that 10? I don't know how they count that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the number was grossly underreported just because of how many people were watching together in communal locations. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, obviously I was there, but I mean, every one of my friends that I talked to was at Boston Pizza, was at the bar down the street, was at a huge party with a bunch of people watching with 20 together. I mean, that game brought people together unlike anything really since the gold medal game in 2010. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I have a funny, quick little colorful story that just shows how big the game was. So my son plays in like a beer league, and they originally had a game scheduled on that Thursday night. And of course, once they saw Canada was going to be playing, they called up the commissioner to see if they could potentially forfeit. Basically said, actually, the other team already beat you to it. They forfeited. You guys get the 1-0 win. I went on the website last week for Thursday night. There was supposed to be, I believe it was 9 scheduled games. It's a pretty big league. Every game was a 1-0 forfeit. 18 teams forfeited their games. Not a single team played. And presumably it's because they all wanted to watch hockey that night rather than play hockey, which just speaks to the passion and the interest that obviously generated.
They probably should have just given 18 ties, to be honest with you. Everyone was in the same boat. Mike, great stuff as always. And fill people in. I know you got a piece tomorrow. You mentioned meeting Pokey Reddick. He'll be a feature of what readers can look forward to.
Yeah, I did a feature last week on all of these sort of culture nights. The Jets have done a great job this year of kind of celebrating different cultures in our community. Whether it's Wasak Night or Ukrainian Heritage Night, South Asian, Philippine, and Black History Night tonight. This is their 5th and final one. So I talked to the ambassadors from all those different cultures that have been working with True North, and it made for a really nice piece. And yeah, tonight, Pokey Reddick in the building. There's some other Jets 1.0 alumni there as well. I actually saw Ray Neufeld earlier today. There's the piece that I did. Thanks, Remus. Ray Neufeld was there. Randy Gillen was there. So there'll be a lot of Jets 1.0 in the house tonight. And it looks like they have a great itinerary plan for tonight's game. And certainly it's actually timely because when you think of it, Mike Greer is the first Black GM in the National Hockey League. So, and Pokey Reddick talked about that, how cool it is that it's his team that's in town for Black History Night tonight. But yeah, it was great to catch up with Pokey. He still has, so he lives in Vegas now, Pokey Reddick does. He said he still has the one Pokey in the Bandit poster still hanging in his house, which, and he said he's got 4 kids. He said his youngest son, when he first saw the poster, said, "Dad, what were you thinking?" And he kind of told a funny story of how the poster idea came together and whatnot. But yeah, it's a cool tale. And then so I'll have that in tomorrow's paper, and then I'm off tomorrow to Ottawa. And on this quick road trip, there's the poster. Yeah, just tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. By the way, look at those pads they were wearing. Remus showed the picture of me earlier in my pads from Gateway Community Center. When I look at pictures like that, I can feel how heavy those pads were. Like those things, especially when they got wet.
Oh,
when they got wet. So first of all, not only were they heavy, they stunk like you would not believe. I still remember the stench in our house from having my goalie pads like in the basement, because those big leather heavy, like you could not get the stench out of them. Equipment's so different these days, of course, night and day from what we used to have. But yeah, I remember just trying to lug those things around, and it was quite the chore.
Mike, have a great trip out east. We'll look forward to catching up soon. Appreciate you, buddy.
You bet. Take care.
All right, good stuff. We got a poll up. Let's get to it. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray, going back to Saturday's game. And the question was, who was the biggest standout in the Jets' win over St. Louis? Kyle Connor, 10 shots on goal, and the shootout winner. Got to tell you that the Winnipeg native Joel Hofer sure played a great game against Kyle Connor. He was in there. I just missed the poll. The rest of the poll, it just disappeared on me.
Oh, I just hit end, so you have to go to the chat. Sorry, I just want to finalize the results here.
Oh, I got you. Okay, finalized results here.
Just go in the chat at the bottom.
Okay, we got it. So Kyle was 17%. Perfetti, who had 2 assists, he only got 2%. We're going to get to Cole Perfetti in a minute. Eric Comrie, 21 saves. Great performance in the shootout, was 20%. But it was Gabriel Velarde with 2 goals, 59% for Big Gabe, scoring earlier. And then, of course, the tying goal the Jets desperately needed to turn a regulation loss into an extra time win. And by the way, the chat, got over 500 in here right now. Welcome. Anyone that's new, great to have you with us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And while you're at it, please give today's episode a thumbs up. And you're always welcome to give your comments in the chat. Of course, we do fan feedback every day for our friends at Fans First, fansfirst.ca. Your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees, period. What you see is what you pay. And the best spot for season ticket holders or ticket holders that have an extra pair that they won't be using to sell on the resale market. Fans First feedback is fan feedback is brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. We've got the a couple other things. Lots of talk about the goalie pads right now. The heavy fans, everyone loves that poster. One of the all-time posters in Jets history. Dan Jets fan. I've got that one somewhere. Boring Sean Monahan, great poster. Not the best tandem, though. Hey, listen, growing up through that year of Winnipeg Jets hockey, and people of my vintage will understand what I'm saying to you, it makes me that much more thankful for Connor Hellebuyck each and every day. Bob Asenzo was a Vezina Trophy finalist in one season. A couple other seasons or parts of seasons, he had a goalie get hot, but nothing like what we've had from Connor Hellebuyck. And I mean, you really have to go all the way back to Joe Daly with his heroics in the WHA for a goalie that, had really planted his flag and was the guy in town. And obviously what Connor Hellebuck's doing is all world with now a 3rd Vezina Trophy. But keep your comments coming in. Fans First, fan feedback, by fans, for fans, no fees. You can check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. All right, we are going to welcome in Adnan Virk in just a minute. But let me give a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for the support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, there was a lot of Canadian pride last week. There's a lot of Winnipeg pride in Princess Auto. Part of the reason why they are the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at Princess Auto Stadium. Cannot wait for the upcoming season. But Princess Auto was founded in Winnipeg and headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 Winnipeg and Manitoba locations to serve you: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store today or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Speaking of great Winnipeg companies, also want to thank Wallace & Wallace for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Wallace & Wallace been serving residential and commercial customers since 1946 as the fencing and overhead door specialist in town. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fences, and of course, they're the leaders in temporary fencing as well. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, one perfect to match your home and add value to it as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will pop down and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent just off of Kenniston. And gang, it's a little warmer outside. We can start thinking playoffs. We can start thinking spring. Of course, with that comes grads. With that comes weddings. And a lot of you looking to up your menswear game heading into the new season. Pop down to F Apparel, 190 Smith Street, the best in custom men's suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, all at great prices, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in town. They've got a great program going on for Manitoba grads. Free shirt and tie with the purchase of a suit starting at $429. And of course, as the wedding industry moves on, guys, you got to look good for the big day. Talk to F Apparel about the wedding party suits because you'll get a great deal and a special discount when the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street. Check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, still to come. Got a juicy offering for you today for a little WST parlay. I've got my eyes on a couple players for tonight's game against the Sharks. We'll get to that later on. But right now, it's an Amazon Prime game. So what a great opportunity to welcome in Adnan Virk to WST. Adnan, it's great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and welcome back to the Peg.
Oh, thanks so much, Hustler. Appreciate it, man. Great to be here. This is now our third trip here to Winnipeg. We got one more coming up in April, as a matter of fact, April 7th, I believe. So I was talking to Josh Morrissey earlier, and I said, I'd never been to Winnipeg before. And so the first time I was here, I said, where did I go? Everyone said, you got to go to the Forks, got to go to the market. And I went for a walk with Jody Shelley, because I like a good walk. And this was like late October. And it was maybe a 35-minute walk. It was nice, some restaurants, kind of sit up there, check out the train, whatever. Now that it's late February, I'm like, I don't think I need to go for a walk. I think I'm good. I feel like I'm a veteran now of Winnipeg. Although, could have been a lot colder. I mean, I'm very balmy, plus 4 degrees today. I understand you guys have been dealing with minus 40 wind chill while I was gone.
Yeah, dude, you picked a good week in February to come because I can safely tell you that the other ones weren't quite as hospitable. So maybe you do get out. Check out the river trail. We got about 12 kilometers of people skating right now for about another week or so probably. And but let's face it, even though it's been very cold, fans have been pretty fired up about this Winnipeg Jets team. But it was just before we dive into the Jets, I have to ask you thoughts about last week. You mentioned talking to Josh Morrissey. I mean, I think everyone was heartbroken he wasn't able to play in the championship game for the Four Nations tournament. But overall, just takeaways from what that event did for the National Hockey League and hockey. And I know you're a Canadian south of the border. This was one you knew this was one we had to have.
No question. I mean, listen, anytime Canada's playing at a national level, we're all patriotic, but particularly living in America, when it's Canada, USA, I'm like, no, we can't lose this. And even more so with a president who's baiting us with tweets and obnoxious rhetoric. I said, no, we got to win this game. I can't go back to work, MLB Network, NHL Network, have to deal with all these Americans shoving it in my face. We lose in basketball or baseball, I can take it. I don't like it, but not in hockey. So it was really a charged atmosphere. And I honestly, man, I think it really did, I think, exceed expectations. Because I think even the most optimistic fan would have said, okay, look, it'll be fun hockey for a couple of weeks because it's my country, I'll watch. We'll see how it goes. but it went from glorified exhibition to something very meaningful and clearly captured the sports attention throughout America. I mean, specifically, when was the last time hockey beat basketball? And you could argue it was regular season basketball, but again, this is not the Olympics. This is not the World Cup. And yet 10.7 million people watched the game on ESPN. It was crazy. Now, of course, for us in Canada, 20% of the population was watching, which begs the question, what were the 80 other percent doing? But thank God we won, man. I was talking to Thomas Hickey, of course, Calgary guy, on part of our Amazon Prime crew, and I just said, listen, I was just so proud of the team because going in, it felt like it was a toss-up, right? Canada was like, well, I would say co-favorites. If you go by these betting lines, maybe USA a slight favorite, perhaps because of Connor Hellebuyck. And so going into that final, I kept thinking, all right, we lost previously 3-1. Binnington, that second goal wasn't great. But if we can just hang in there, and you knew that the atmosphere would be charged, and again, you were there, so you know it better than I do. But the fact we were able to withstand that flurry, particularly in overtime. Like I keep thinking about Binnington's save on Matthews in the slot. That glove save was unbelievable. And then for McDavid to get a little bit of space, there was a triumphant ending. Thank God we won.
Binnington is such a great story. I mean, we were talking all week. I mean, I was there for every scenario. I mean, he's not Connor Hellebuyck, but he's certainly capable of and did it, raising his level of play at the most important time. And that's exactly what we saw. It'll be amazing to see, listen, we know St. Louis has been capable of going on a bit of a heater at some point, although I think they really needed that game on Saturday with the against the Jets if they wanted to kind of just, fire right out of the gate. But coming out of it, you mentioned Josh Morrissey. I mean, let's get to the Jets. This team is going for 10 in a row tonight, the top team in the Western Conference. What was your opinion of the Jets maybe change throughout the course of the year from your first time here? And if I'm not mistaken, that Amazon game was the Jets' only loss in their first 16 games of the season. And yet here they are still holding down as the top dogs in the Western Conference.
You're 100% right, Hustler. I was talking to Josh about that. I said, this is our third trip, and that first one was, you guys were unbelievable, and you lose to the Leafs. And by the way, a lot of Leafs fans there in attendance. One thing you know about Toronto, they're going to travel. And now, having done this flight, 2.5 hours there in Canada, why not? Probably cheaper to get a Jets ticket than it is to get a Leafs ticket. But it's nice to see how well the Jets have played. And, man, it's been an unbelievable story. They said today either I was going to talk to Morrissey or Gabe Vilardi. And I was excited to talk to Vilardi, being a Kingston guy, as is Scott O'Neill. I was born in Toronto, but then I grew up in Kingston and then Morven, which is closer to Napanee, Avril-Lavigne territory. But regardless, Morrissey's a great guy. We talked not only about the Four Nations, the fact he couldn't play in the championship game because, listen, I was sick. And I said, I think it's actually a very selfless decision. Look at Matthew Tkachuk. He tried to play, couldn't give it a go, and then it was a waste, right? USA was losing a roster spot, whereas at least Josh realized, no, I'm not good, and we've got enough people here that can get it done. Our defense core is solid enough. We have enough depth. Thomas Harley's been pushed in a tough situation. He can do it. So I give Josh credit for being selfless enough. But he said it was an amazing experience. I talked to him a little bit about his dad and, what an influence his dad had. His dad passed away, as you know, August of 2021, tail end of COVID. But he said he dedicated that season to his dad, and his dad was so instrumental in helping him just being an offensive defenseman, right? His dad would really focus on clinics of defensemen, which he didn't often have in Calgary in that time. Used to say the Morrissey brothers, talking about him and his brother Jake as well. So Josh is a great story, as you guys know. I mean, I love watching him play an offensive defenseman. I look back, that 8-year, $50 million contract, I wouldn't say it's a steal, but I think they're getting the money's worth. I mean, he's been fabulous for Winnipeg. The top line obviously is amazing. The Scheifele, Connor Vilardi. I still can't believe Connor was not on Team USA's roster for that final game. Now that I think about it, it was kind of crazy when I was thinking about the team overall. But it's been a great story, man. I just think seeing the Jets that first game, the second game, now the third time we're here, just the depth of this team is so impressive. This is not a team where you say, oh, they're good, but they're carried by a great goaltender. No. They're collectively a juggernaut, and they also happen to have a great goaltender who's going to win his third Vezina trophy. I just hope, and I know we're not there yet, but I just hope it's a deep playoff run and they can capitalize on this regular season success. But on paper, at least, massive mismatch. I mean, Sharks versus the Jets, this could be bloody in favor of Winnipeg tonight.
Adnan, speaking about the previous couple seasons and where this team is coming out of the break for the Four Nations, I think they're one of the more fascinating teams in the entire NHL in that they already came into this season, I think, with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I mean, they'd had 2 good seasons and they'd been bounced, in a way that I don't think they were particularly proud of. And they spoke about it at the beginning of the season, acknowledged what they need to do to be better and moved on. But coming out of this tournament, Hellebuyck gets so close but doesn't win. He's as motivated a player as you'll have maybe in sports. Yeah. Kyle Connor not in the lineup, as you mentioned, terrible decision, but regardless, he's probably got a chip on his shoulder. Josh didn't get a chance to play in the big game. Oh, and then there's Mark Scheifele, who was left off the team entirely. I mean, I am here for a bit of a Jets revenge tour narrative, rolling through the final 25 games of the season and then showing what they're capable of in the postseason, because they've really passed pretty much every test so far this year.
No, it's true. And you can certainly make a case. You say, okay, if you win the tournament, like a Morrissey, you go, okay, that will just, further my confidence in my development. But I'm with you. I think you can use the scorn as well and say, okay, this defeat will now motivate me if I'm Connor Hellebuyck to prove that I still am capable of winning in a big moment, in a big game. And you're right. The fact that Scheifele wasn't even on the team, that's definitely got to be frustrating. The Jets, it's funny because I always wonder, is the better conversation, like going back to Rob Zandri, remember the controversy of him on team camp? Do you try to have just the most talented players and say, figure it out, or do you actually get and put fourth-line penalty-killing type players on the team? I know there's no easy answer, but I'm generally of the opinion, just give me the most talent, because I don't need to have – I need to have a guy who's going to score. Like, no matter what, if I have Kyle Connor playing on the fourth line, I'll take that. Even if he's not my conventional penalty-killing fourth-line winger, I don't care. I want a guy who can score, especially because goals will be at a premium. So that one I think is particularly mystifying. But you're right. Use it as revenge. Use it as motivation. There's going to be guys coming out of this break who relaxed and went to Cabo or went to Hawaii or wherever it was, and they're refreshed. And then there's guys who played who will use that motivation. You worry about potential fatigue for some of these guys. But again, it was a short tournament. It wasn't like they played 10 games in 10 nights. It was 3 or 4 games. Hopefully the boys stayed sharp. And, you're right. The Jets revenge tour should definitely have some fight the next couple months.
Well, they've found ways to win. Man, did they ever on Saturday night. I mean, Velarde tipping that puck in after the bizarre double holding minor to Neil Pionk. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get Elias to let us know the last time a double holding minor was called in the National Hockey League. But going for 10 tonight and doing it against the San Jose Sharks team that, I mean, listen, they are where we thought they'd be in the standings. But I have to tell you, Adnan, from far away looking, it seems like this team, the future is even brighter than I think a lot of people expected at the start of the season. And Macklin Celebrini is right at the top of the list of reasons why. He has really shown that he has come in as the real deal, as the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, he's been tremendous. I thought, especially at the start of the season, Matvei Michkov was going to win the Calder, and he started out great. Even when Tortorella benched him, he's been really strong for Philadelphia, but he kind of dipped a little bit. But I think Celebrini has really kind of asserted himself as the guy to beat as far as the Calder race is concerned. And it's interesting because you kind of always wonder who's the next big thing, right, for Canadian hockey. And Connor Bedard, we thought was that guy. A lot of talk last year. He's the next Crosby, blah, blah, blah. But, Bedard slumped this season. Chicago's a bad team. You're not necessarily sure if they've got the right culture there or the right winning spirit. Already fired Luke Richardson, their coach. But with Celebrini, he feels like a real talent, someone really special. And he's, rooming with Joe Thornton. He's kind of under his wing. He's kind of looking out for him a little bit, as you saw often happens in hockey. Remember the mentorship that Mario Lemieux gave Sidney Crosby? So, yeah, I think, listen, Winnipeg is a phenomenal team. They should roll to a victory tonight. They should not be tested at Canada Life Center. They've been so dominant. But I think if you're just a hockey fan watching tonight, keep an eye on Macklin Celebrini. He's a special talent. I think he could be on Team Canada's roster next year for the Olympics. I wouldn't discount that. And like I said, he's the favorite right now to win the Calder. He's been fun to watch.
Yeah, when, as far as we'll pay attention to the Sharks tonight. We'll really, I think they've already been crossed off the list for the playoffs. It seems like in the West, we kind of don't have a large group that are fighting for that 8th spot. It's kind of Calgary, Vancouver, and then a couple teams that they could get on a heater. Maybe they could get into the mix. I think there's a big advantage for a team like the Jets if they can hold on to the number 1 spot in the West to get that number 1 seed and then play, sort of a team that seems a bit of a tier below the other 7 playoff teams right now, Adnan.
Yeah, there was one point earlier in the year, Hustler was looking, and Colorado had kind of been slumping, right? They didn't really have their guns yet going. And I said, there might be like a wild card team, which is crazy to think about. And then it'd be a very scary proposition for those top seeds. Imagine facing the Avalanche in the first round. Like Colorado's gotten their act together, and McKinnon's. You say McDavid's the best player in the world, but McKinnon was unbelievable too in that tournament at the Four Nations, winning MVP, and they're going to be formidable whoever faces them. But I think specifically, you're right for the Jets. Again, you don't want to get ahead of yourselves. The focus is just finish strong, rack up as many wins as you can. But no one will talk with this team unless they get it done in the playoffs. And we all know the criticism of Hellebuyck has been that, he may have 2 Vests. He's about to win a 3rd. Hasn't stepped up to the playoffs. Got it. Maybe he's been overworked in the past, whatever the issues have been. But this team will be judged by how they fare in the playoffs. But I'm with you. I don't view it as, oh, there's 8 teams which are very strong. Upsets can always happen. We know that. But I do think that this year, at least it feels top heavy in the West. I feel particularly bullish if I'm Winnipeg, if I'm Vegas, if I'm Colorado. Like, those teams feel like they're a notch above. Those other teams, as you mentioned, a Calgary, a Vancouver. Like, there's no way on paper those teams should beat Winnipeg if that indeed is the first round matchup.
Just over on the other side of the East, we could have one of the most fun and exciting playoff races in the National Hockey League in recent history. I mean, there are so many teams within, and teams that we'd love to kind of see in the playoffs. Detroit hasn't been there in a long time. The Ottawa Senators, the Columbus Blue Jackets, if they made it into the playoffs, that might be the best story of the entire season, considering the tragedy of Johnny Gaudreau going in. But really, I mean, from that final spot is Ottawa at 62. You're talking about 4 teams within 2 points of each other. Another 3 teams just 3 back. This is probably going to go right down to game 82 in the East.
Yeah, I love it and hate it. I love it because there's going to be drama every night. I hate it because I don't know who's good. Like, I'm like, well, I don't know. Is this a good team or not? Like, there's so much parity. Literally, 1 week can change. Like, a 3-game losing streak, oh, they stink. A 3-game winning streak, oh, they're juggernauts. I have no idea. So Ottawa, to me, is a really fun team. I'll tell you this, man. Again, being in the U.S., the Kachucks have done so much now for USA Hockey because the amount of Americans will now buy Kachuk jerseys because those, particularly, Brady, the fact that he can fight and score and do everything at will, that star's on the rise. He's had a great year for Ottawa. We know what a good player he is if you're a hockey fan, but the casual fan's now going to know the name of Brady Kachuk and definitely Matthews as well to a lesser extent. So I hope Ottawa gets in. They haven't made the playoffs. I think in 5 years, I always root for Canadian teams, so I would love to see Ottawa get in. But you're right, Columbus is a fabulous story. I mean, sometimes with teams like that, where you look at their lean on talent, you think, well, it's probably a defensive effort, well coached, good goaltending. No, they're actually high scoring. Columbus is like 7th in the league in goals for. So they've had a lot of guys step up in terms of putting the puck in the net. And Werenski's unbelievable. I talked to him on my podcast, NHL Unscripted, with Jason Demers, former defenseman. And Werenski's a great guy, man. What a class act. He's going to win the Norris. He'll get some votes for the Hart. He's really gone to the next level for this Columbus team. And their goaltending's a little tricky because Merzlikins is either great or he's terrible. Like, he's an odd goalie to watch because either he's on point or he's not. But yeah, God, you're right. After Gaudreau's tragedy, to think Columbus in the playoffs, unheard of. And Detroit, it's a good story for Steve Yzerman. I mean, they have not made the playoffs in 5 years either. So the clock is ticking for both Detroit and Ottawa. Pressure's on both of those teams. I'd love to see them both get in.
Adnan, we cannot not mention Ovi, a hat trick last night. If he had not missed that period of time, we'd probably be on the watch right now of when he's going to break it. And it is, it's almost inconceivable that we are here, that he's having one of his greatest seasons ever. And the team as well. This was a team that sort of moonwalked and they were the last man standing for the 8th spot last year. They're 38, 11, and 8. It's really been Washington and Winnipeg all year at the top of their respective conferences. But Ovechkin, man, it's stunning what he's doing right now. And I mean, I guess there's a possibility that this could still go this year, the record.
Yeah, I think he's on pace right now. April 4th, Chicago. I think I heard while watching Sportsnet yesterday or TSN. So, yeah, once he got injured, you go, okay, that's it. It's not going to happen this year. It'll happen like October 12th of next season. It'll be a great moment, but the fact he can do it this year is amazing. He's such an incredible talent, a wonderful player, and he's always been a class act. I think I interviewed him after he got to 500 or 600. I'm trying to remember. There was some milestone. I remember interviewing him in New Jersey, and to think he's added so many more goals since then is nothing short of remarkable. He keeps himself in great shape. He loves the game. He cares for the game. He has an infectious joy and enthusiasm, which has always transcended his play. 900 is going to happen, and honestly, 1,000 isn't out of the question. Like, I wouldn't be a betting man and say, yeah, for sure it's going to happen, but I wouldn't bet against it. That's why I feel like when it comes to Ovechkin, because with the numbers he's putting up, in terms of goals per game, I think this is the 3rd best season of his career. Like, for that to happen for a guy in his late 30s is just unheard of. And maybe he's like a Jaromir Jagr. He wants to play at least 42, 43, 44. Like a Chris Chelios wants to play into his mid-40s. I kept thinking before, he'll get the record just by scoring 30 a game for 5 seasons. But no, he could be a 40-goal guy for 3 more years and just obliterate these numbers that Gretzky put up. So it's been awesome to see him. And I again, as a Canadian, you want Gretzky to hold every record, sure. But I love Ovechkin. I think he's a phenomenal player. He's a ton of fun to watch. And I hope he gets it this season. It'll be a fun way to go into the playoffs for this Capitals team. Carberry for Coach of the Year. He's been amazing. And that whole story's been fun.
Adnan Virk's with us in Winnipeg for tonight's Amazon Prime NHL broadcast between the Jets and the Sharks. I have to quickly ask you about your other gig, MLB Network. A lot of Jays angst around the country right now. What do you make of the Vladdy situation and just the outlook for Toronto moving forward after another frustrating offseason?
Well, it's disappointing. I think Vladdy's going to go. I mean, I had said on record, I thought the worst case scenario for the Blue Jays would be if Shapiro, Atkins, Schneider were all still in their same respective positions and Vladdy and Bo were not re-signed. And that's exactly the situation we're going to have in a few weeks here. So I don't root for anyone's firing. I've been fired before. I know it sucks. I know how painful it can be. But the Jays just didn't get it done. And, like, to me, someone's going to pay the piper. It's amazing. I think Shapiro's entering the final year of his deal now. And they have yet to win a playoff game. Like, this has been a team in which they've been lots of expectations, lots of excitement, but they have not delivered. And so the clock's on all of them, quite frankly. I think if they got to a poor start, John Schneider will be in trouble. Atkins could be in trouble as well. He hasn't made the moves we were hoping for. At least there was some movement. Santander's a great power hitter. And I said they should target him, and they did. And that's a very team-friendly contract, $92.5 million over 5 years. With a deferred, it comes to $14 million a year. That's a steal. That's a good job by the Jays. He had 44 home runs this season to go third most of the majors. Love that signing. Max Scherzer, love him as a guy. Future Cy Young Award winner, not sure. Like, is he going to give you 140 innings? No. Going to give you 110? That'd be nice. Probably going to get hurt. Is he a fourth starter at this age? Not sure. Hoffman is an all-star closer with the Phillies. He got turned down by 2 other teams because of failed medicals. Is that a grave concern, or will he actually be a closer for the Blue Jays? So, Andres Jimenez they acquired from Cleveland. He's a spectacular defender. Amazing. But not a very good offensive player. Hasn't done much the last couple of seasons. If all breaks right for Toronto, if Vladdy puts up another great season, if Bo Bichette can return to who he was, if Barrios, Gausman, Bassett pitch well, if those signs I mentioned do wood, then this Jays team can push for high 80s. I think they can be a play. I don't think they win the division. The Yankees are bad, but they can be a playoff team. They certainly can get a wild card. But if things go south, if Bo isn't that guy, if Vladdy looks like he wants out of town, if Max Scherzer gets hurt, if Santander slumps, if Varsho can't come back, if Alejandro Kirk can't hit, then this could be another last-place Blue Jays team looking at 73 wins as they were a year ago. And imagine shipping off Vladdy at the trade deadline if you're certain he's not going to re-sign. I think right now they're third place in the East. They feel like around a 500 team. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they can push towards a playoff spot. But you're right about the angst around Vladdy because it feels like he's going to be gone sooner rather than later.
Adnan, such a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you again for doing this. Just quickly, how have you been enjoying the Amazon Prime gig and fill people in on what they'll see when they fire it up tonight for the Jets?
Yeah, it's been awesome, and I appreciate you asking. John Forson's an amazing play-by-play guy. I've loved his work for a long time, so getting to know him has been fun. The whole crew gets along great. I mentioned Thomas Hickey. We were at the gym together earlier, went and had breakfast, and we went to morning skate. Shane Knighty's with us tonight. Of course, Manitoba boy. We'll be giving Shane his due tonight. I believe he's from Neepawa. It's about 90 kilometers away from Winnipeg. So, yeah, he'll be getting some love tonight. Blake Bolden, of course, I work with. Blake is fabulous. She loves hockey, passionate about the game. She was just at the Four Nations in Boston, as a matter of fact, so she was 4 rows back. So it's an awesome crew, man. And our producer, of course, Mark Askin, he's an absolute legend. He did Hockey Night Canada for decades. He's an old friend of mine from the 1 year I worked at Leafs TV, which is back in 2009. So worked with him, and Andy Petrillo is my old friend from that year with Leafs TV. So you know the way the business is, man. It's a very small business. Everyone kind of seems to know each other, but they've been great. We've had a blast. I'm so pleasantly surprised. As you know, with these ventures, generally there's a lot of criticism early on until you settle in. And maybe there is, but for what I've seen, it's all been very, very positive. So I thank all the viewers and thank the good people of Canada for welcoming us back home.
No, the viewing experience has been excellent. There've been some really interesting games, and great to have you guys here in Winnipeg a few times, including this one tonight, as the Jets look to go 10 in a row, franchise record, and continue staying on top of the West. Adnan, be well, my friend. Thanks so much for doing this. Have a great broadcast tonight.
Thanks so much, Husker. I appreciate it. All the best to you, and go Jets go. I'll see you again in April.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Oh, yeah. Big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug, and cheers to our friends at Boston Pizza. Man, the BPs were... that game on Thursday night, I'm just got some pictures from friends that were at a couple of different Boston pizzas. What a scene. And I think that played out from coast to coast, really anywhere. And part of the reason why that TV number, I think, was down was so many people were getting together with friends to watch the game at their local BP or their local bar. They're back at it tonight. Jets and Sharks, 6:30 p.m. So if you're not at the game, always the next best place to be is your local Boston Pizza. Chance to get in on those fun pick-a-player contests where if your player scores, you'll get to spin the BP prize wheel. And there's still time to get in for the draw for the Boston Pizza getaway to Vancouver to see the Jets and Canucks later on in March. Pop down and check out their new February specials as well. Some great stuff on the menu. And, of course, ice cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas always waiting for you there as well. And, hey, shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. We're getting ready for the playoffs, everybody. Now, hey, you might want to wait until the trade deadline just to lock in maybe a new jersey player. But as Remus mentioned before, if you're a Vlad guy and are waiting to get into Metsnikov 7, well, now's a great time to do it because he just inked for another 2 years. The bottom line is whether you're looking for Winnipeg Jets merchandise in particular with the biggest selection in town of literally everything from jerseys, hoodies, hats, golf shirts, Q-zips. They've got it all at Royal Sports. Tons of great Bomber gear, including a lot of new stuff coming in from New Era ahead of the upcoming season. The entire National Hockey League and the best in fan gear from all the major sports. Royal Sports has it all with the biggest and best selection. And speaking of Jets, if you haven't been into Royal lately, you got to check out the hat wall because they have done a number of one-off collabs with New Era with some of the coolest Jets hats you've ever seen in unique color combos that have never been done before. All waiting for you at Royal Sports. And while you're there, check out all the cool stuff on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. You got the Herschel section, the big Yeti section. It's a big weekend for Yeti coolers, actually, online. You can pick those up as well at Royal Sports, the ultimate sports superstore, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Of course, we're getting back at it tonight for the Jets. Upcoming games for the club at home will be Saturday night against the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's just a quick one-off and then on to the road for 4 games. Islanders, Philly, Jersey, and Carolina before coming back for 2 big home games. The Jacob Troubalis New York Rangers. How about that? Gave up an 8 spot to Buffalo coming out of the break. They did bounce back and beat Pittsburgh yesterday. And then that huge game Friday the 14th against the Dallas Stars. Later on next month, it's our final WST game of the year. Friday night against the New Jersey Devils, where we try to run the table. We are 5-0 for our games of the month so far. Jack Hughes and the Devils come to town for what should be a great way to finish up the WST Game of the Month season. Get your tickets now. WinnipegJets.com/WST. Grab your ticket. It will include a beer or a drink of your choice. That'll be activated through the 360 app. But yes, the final game of the month is Friday, the 28th of March against New Jersey. Get your tickets now, and we'll look forward to doing it once again, one more time this season, hopefully with a perfect record to show for our year, which is quite a difference from the way things started out last year. We had to win that game against Calgary just to be able to do it again this year. Let's get Remo back in here. I've got a bunch of stuff to get to in the Coolbet lines. A lot of talk about Ovi and Gretzky in the chat right now. I'm seeing Remus.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the point that this chatter Aristeele is trying to make, saying that it's taken Ovechkin more seasons than Gretzky to do it. But you look at the games played, he's played 20 less games. And he had seasons lost due to COVID and lockout. So I don't really understand the point. I think people just like to argue us. I think both great players, both accomplished a lot, and
I can't believe what Ovechkin's doing this season. I mean, this to me is the most incredible season of his career, considering how old he is and like what their team is doing too. It's just bananas. The one thing I'll say, and listen, I don't want to diminish what Gretzky did, but I mean, there is no comparison to how hard it is to score today as opposed to back then. I mean, the goalies were, afterthoughts more often than anything. The style of play was absolutely, just go back and look at the 92 goal season, like when he was putting that up. I mean, the sport barely resembles what we have today. The goalies are so much better. The defense, the coaching is better right now. So I think I'm more impressed with Ovechkin's goal scoring record and soon to break it than what Gretzky did. But I mean, listen, they're both going to be at the top of the Mount Rushmore when it's all said and done. So we got the Caps are coming in. That game against Ovechkin is the 25th of March. So basically a month away from now. Don't think it'll be realistic that he could break it at that point, but I don't know. Hat trick last night. He gets on a bit of a heater for a week or two, and those goals can drop by very, very quickly. Listen, before we get to the Coolbet lines, I asked this question on Twitter last night, Reem, but I'll ask it to you. How many times have you been sent the Rucker-McGroarty dust-up fight? I'm well over 20 at this point.
Yeah, definitely a couple. People are DMing it to the Winnipeg Sports Talk Instagram, DMing it to me. So I shared it with the caption, just tried to be as matter of fact as I could because I knew people would be interested and I don't need to pile on. Rucker-McGroarty's first pro fight didn't go well, and I guess he went into the other team's goalie. He's playing for Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins in the AHL. Got into a fight with Michael Bushinger, who this guy hasn't fought really at all in the AHL either. He's fought in junior, I saw on hockeyfights.com doing some research here. But the fight was basically, McGroarty didn't get any punches thrown, and he took a lot of punches. So it did not go well, and a lot of Jets fans did enjoy watching it.
Listen, I mean, there was a lot of dancing on the grave online for the weekend. Listen, I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, I was shocked that he wasn't a little more competitive in that. And listen, I know you come up through U.S. hockey, you play at the NTTB. I mean, that's just not something that they do. But at the same time, I mean, the player that he is, listen, I was a little surprised at it. It was unfortunate. I'm sure it won't be as lopsided the next time that happens if he does. But, I mean, we've moved on. Braden Yeager's killing it right now in the Western Hockey League. He'll be in the mix next year for the Winnipeg Jets. And considering the way this season is done, I think we move on. There's a level of good riddance with Mr. McGroarty. Although if he does make the NHL next year, when the team comes back, Jet fans have long memories. And what we were thinking we would do at the third game of the regular season when Pittsburgh came here probably will wait. But tough one for Rucker. And listen, he is still a very young player. I don't necessarily like to see guys get their heads beaten in like that. But a lot of Jet fans wanted to make sure that we all saw that. So we certainly did. Listen, let's get to the Coolbet lines for tonight. Because fun day today in the lock shop. We got some TGL coming up tonight. We made some picks on that. But tonight we've got the Sharks and the Winnipeg Jets. Remus, I've never seen the Jets ever be a minus 500 money line favorite. That's where we are today with the top team in the West and the bottom team in the West.
Yeah. Here's just one thing where I just want to go back to Rutger. Just wanted to get it. I think, he came on our show, said how much he loved to be a Winnipeg Jet, and when it came to signing a contract, said what? The jersey didn't feel right, whatever his comment
just
was.
Didn't feel right.
Like it was the same as when Jerry offers that girl the pie, and she just shakes her head no on Seinfeld, doesn't give an answer. I think people, he said all the right things. I think people felt duped, they felt lied to, and when someone says they don't want to be here, it's kind of like what happened with Cutter Gauthier and the Flyers. We saw what happened in his return. I don't think Winnipeg fans are going to be chanting F you Rutger like they did before. Like, I don't think it goes... Like, that was extreme. Like, he wouldn't meet with the team. I thought that, at least, did he tell Cheveldayoff the jersey didn't feel right? Was that... Did they talk about that? Either way, I think people were very upset. So, there's not, again, people in our mentions saying, we don't care. He's just some other age. I think people do care. And why I retweeted it from
people obviously care because I got it sent a million times on the weekend. Guys, come on, wake up. That's
there's
Ken Wiebe, copyright 2025, wake up territory. I mean, you can say like, hey, whatever. And I totally get that. Personally, I'm that way too. But we cannot ignore the fact that there is a large section of our fan base that was basically watching that thing on repeat all weekend long. So we were going to mention it today. We haven't played it. You can find it. It's out there. Don't worry about that. But yeah, listen, and you're exactly right, Remus. I mean, this wasn't just a guy that asked to trade. This is a guy that came in, charmed everybody, said all the right things, and then did a complete 180 and wouldn't really come clean about what the issue was. So yeah, you're going to piss a lot of people off. That's what happens.
Yeah. And Nicholas says it's the lying that everyone didn't like, not as much that a lot of players don't want to play in Winnipeg, but people felt very, very duped and tricked. And anyways, yes, that was forwarded to us a lot. But here, I'll get to the Coolbet. Jets, enormous, massive favorite, Huss. This is crazy here.
Yeah, minus 500. So listen, I don't think there'll be many money line bets. How about this? The puck line is 2.5. Normally the puck line, for a favorite will be minus 1.5, and the team will have to win by 2. The Jets on the puck line today, plus 102 to win by 3. And again, San Jose did play last night, so they are on the second end of a back-to-back in 2 different cities. Listen, I'm not going to get into the puck line or even the money line today. However, I do have a couple plays. And you reminded me earlier today, Mark Scheifele can set the franchise record for goals. That's happening tonight. Before the team hits the road, do it. And it's another great reason to go to the game tonight. Not only to see Macklin Celebrini, not only to see the Jets hopefully win a record 10th straight game, but also to be in the building for what could very well be a historic goal for Mark Scheifele. The goal scorers tonight, Kyle Connor minus 101, Mark Scheifele plus 105, Gabe is plus 137. I see Nikolai Ehlers at plus 161, Cole Perfetti at plus 200. But you know what? My favorite play today is, Remus, going over to the player points. Cole Perfetti had 2 assists the other week, on Saturday. Cole Perfetti is plus 410 for 2 points or more tonight. And I think back to the game that Cole had earlier this year against San Jose when, if I'm not mistaken, 2 goals and an assist. It might have even been a 4-point game. Bottom line is that line's rolling right now. Cole's really feeling it, and he is a pretty streaky player. So at better than 4-1, I'm going to be jumping on Cole Perfetti. And I did do an exclusive over in the exclusive tabs, the WST parlay. And I don't think we'll have a big max bet on this one. I think the minimum's quite low. But Ehlers and Perfetti each to have 2 points and the Jets to win, plus 1575 for tonight's game.
Ehlers and that's a big one, Huss.
Well, yeah, and listen, they play on the same line. You could easily have both of them get their 2 points off 2 goals. So anyways, we'll take a little swing on that. But a Scheifele goal, I love tonight, and I am in on Cole Perfetti to get 2 points this evening. Of course, all sorts of other options. There is one other game tonight in the league, and it's Vegas and the Kings. And both of those teams have actually had big-time goal-scoring games. The total in the game is only 5.5. The Kings are a slight home dog. We did put together a little lock shot play in the exclusives for that game. Kevin Fiala to score a goal. Over 5.5, and the Kings to win is plus 650 if you want to jump in on that. So both the Lock Shot Partner Parlay and the Winnipeg Sports Talk Parlay are in the exclusives. And then right at the top, some nice, the super boost tonight is Scheifele to get a point, Jack Eichel to get a point. That's boosted to even money, plus 100. And I love the TGL. We're leaning on The 2 wins tonight, if you want to go with the 2, well, I guess Atlanta and Boston Common is a pick 'em. I think Atlanta should be a favorite in that one. We've got Atlanta and LA. That's boosted to plus 246. And if you want to ride with us with those 2 teams, plus the Bay tomorrow, that's boosted to plus 462. So all of that's there. One other thing I should mention, and we'll get to this in just a second, but the Brier. Scotty's finished up yesterday. The Brier is ready to roll, and the odds are out for the Brier. Brad Jacobs' Alberta team is the favorite at plus 155. Matty Dunstone, Manitoba's Matty Dunstone, plus 215. I'm stunned. Now, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to the men's curling tour all year, but when I heard that Brendan Bottcher was joining Gushu's team, I'm like, okay, they'll be like Team Homan. Not so fast. Plus 450 for Canada. And that's the Gushu rink now with Brendan Bottcher. Mike McEwen, Winnipeg native, representing Saskatchewan, plus 575. Northern Ontario, 675. Then a big gap. Kevin Cooey's Alberta rink, 15-1. And then 50 or more. But you can bet winner, top 3, top 4, qualify from pool play, exact finish for all the teams, the Group A and Group B winners. So it is all there for you, curling fans. If you want to get locked in for the Montana's Brier, Coolbet has the lines up for that. Of course, if you haven't played at Coolbet before, use the promo code WST. Hook you up with a 100% bonus on your first deposit, up to $200. Reem, I should mention, speaking of curling, congratulations to the Homan rink. And a huge congratulations to our girl, Carrie Anerson, who played so well with her team getting to the finals. But this Homan rink right now is such a buzzsaw. And she did something last night that had never been done in curling history. The perfect game. Rachel Homan curled a 100%. I don't believe it had ever been done before. And, you know, the Anerson rink was unreal. The first 5 ends, they did everything they could to hang in. They actually had the lead with the hammer, but then Rachel Homan just simply was perfect. And pretty tough. And I likened where Homan is right now. Like, she's like 2001 Tiger Woods. I mean, just a level above everyone and winning everything. Back-to-back years, running the table, winning the Scotties without a loss, continuing to add to her historic career. And she's going to obviously be a heavy favorite when Canada goes to the World Championships, I would suspect. But the focus for curling fans this week is on the Montana's Brier. We'll have to do a preview of that. We'll get somebody on to preview that over the next couple days because I'm looking forward to it. That was the one thing about being in Boston all last week. Did not get a chance to see almost any of the curling until I got back this weekend, but was glued to Carrie's semifinal win over Nova Scotia yesterday and the final in the evening. So congratulations to our Manitoba girls. They still are doing it, but Rachel Homan right now just on another level from everybody else, and pretty amazing to watch. What are your thoughts on this game tonight, Remus? Do you have any other clinch? Do you like by Scheifele to score and Cole Perfetti 2 points?
I'm a bit nervous about, going for 2 points. It's ambitious, but maybe that's what you got to do if you want to get a decent payout, because the odds are, the minus 500 favorites. It's insane. I like Scheifele to score. He hasn't scored in 4 games. I was just looking at his game log, so he's certainly due at home. Their power play against San Jose, who played yesterday. This is lining up for a Jets line 1 explosion game, but maybe it's like Lowry's line or something that surprises you with all the goals, or it could be line 2 with Perfetti.
Maybe everybody gets in and they put up a snowman or something like that. I'd be here for that.
It's happened before, so I imagine it's going to be a great night at Canada Life Center. Minus 500 favorites. It sounds like the odds are you're going to see a win, but hey, they still got to come out and do it. We've seen some Jets Sharks games over the last couple of years that were tight. They did have a tight one earlier this year, and another one was a blowout. So, hey, the Jets are in a pretty good spot. Can go for a franchise record 10 wins. They already have the franchise record. Joe Pascucci, who was in the chat, and
Oh, Scooch is in the chat. Right on.
He was before. He did note on X. Personally, don't care for Jets Thrashers records. The Jets win over the Blues tied the Winnipeg NHL mark for 9 consecutive wins set by the 84-85 Jets. And that featured 2 wins against the Nordiques Devils and Canucks. The other 3 were against Habs, Sabres, and North Stars. So tonight the Jets go for the real record. That's
undisputed. The undisputed title.
Yeah, Winnipeg sports historian Joe Pascucci noting that, and Mark Scheifele going for the franchise record in goals, although we all know the Winnipeg NHL record held by Dale Hawerchuk. I think he's like 50 away or so. So, we'll be celebrating that probably next year. I don't know if they'll do anything, but I mean, he's going to be up there in terms of all-time.
Oh, listen,
Jets
guaranteed they will do something. There's zero chance. Ignoring Dale Hawerchuk's record? Come on.
It's not sanctioned by the NHL, Huss. It's not.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I'm saying that's tongue in cheek. So, it's unfortunate it's not officially recognized, so we have to go around and do all this stuff. But it is what it is for now, and I don't know. Well,
those records are mothballed anyways right now. It's up to us just to have common sense, and when we're talking about Winnipeg and Jets and NHL records, to use the records that all of us consider the legitimate records, with all due respect to everything that happened in Atlanta. But listen, including Atlanta, I'm fine with that. Celebrate Mark Scheifele tonight, beating Kovalchuk. We won't have to talk about him anymore. And then, as Mark said himself, the guy that he's really chasing is Dale Hawerchuk.
Yeah, and I think it is important, for what Joe does on X and for us here to talk about the Jets 1.0 records, because as you said, if we don't, who's going to talk about them? You think they care about them in Arizona? Wait, they don't have a team. Every time I'd watch a Coyotes game, they'd show oh, here's all the records. It'd be all Winnipeg. Silliness of the NHL. We're still going to bang on that drum, get more people on board. Maybe the change will happen at some point, but this is the situation we're in.
You know what? I see Eagle Eyes in chat saying bet on Reed Carruthers. We may have to lean on Carruthers, and I'll fire a text to Matty Dunstone and see if he wants to come on. It'd be good to talk to those guys before the event gets underway. There is an option, just back to the Coolbet, just now that Eagle Eyes mentioned that. The province of winning team, Manitoba plus 190. So with that bet, you would get Carruthers and Dunstone. Unfortunately, Mike McEwen doesn't count because he's representing Saskatchewan. But that is there right now as well. So that is all there. All right. Well, listen, let's get this pod up because people want to check it out before game time tonight. Fun show. Great to be back. Awesome crowd today. Again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and make sure to give a thumbs up to today's episode. And we will be back tomorrow. Dave Pagnotta will join us. New trade bait board. We'll kind of dive into the upcoming trade deadline with Pags. Jeff Hamilton is going to join us, and much more on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, though, let's make it 10 in a row tonight down at Canada Life Center. Jets and Sharks, Amazon Prime game. We'll break it all down for you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. For Michael Remus, I'm Andrew Patterson. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. And thanks to all of you for making us a part of yours. Maybe we'll see you at the rink tonight. If not, we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on WST.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.